Hey, y'all. This is Reverence for Impulse, and I'm Weena Pauly-Tarr. This podcast is my attempt to more deeply understand and explore impulse through conversations with people that inspire me. We step into connection without any planning or agenda, but with respect for the impulses that brought us here and shape how we are when we're together. I'm so glad you followed your impulse to listen in. I've known Jesse Danger a long time, or at least it feels like it. Jesse has been a parkour teacher to me and my kids for many years. He's been a colleague, a collaborator, but mostly a dear friend and inspiration for me. Jesse started a parkour education organization called the Movement Creative about a decade ago and has created this amazing community of brilliant parkour teachers, movement experts, creative thinkers, and just good people who work all over New York City, in schools and outside in all kinds of weather. This podcast was such a great example of what it's actually like to witness the unplanned encounter between two people, the kind of awkward tension and time that it takes to find an organic groove and connection without any of the polish and editing given to make something more valuable than it is. With Jesse, our conversation felt like we were on some kind of cave exploration, like starkly standing outside the cave and checking our gear and sort of hesitating in how to proceed. But then once we're deep in, we would find something amazing and get excited, wanting to understand it more, how we relate to it, and challenge each other. There's a tension and distance that we held in coming together and also in parting ways that feels so honest and transparent. And I just love that. It's always a very personal exchange and also has a kind of intellectual rigor when I'm with Jesse. And I just really appreciate his way of showing up. I hope you check out all the amazing ways that Jesse and his team show up in the world. You can find them at themovementcreative.com. And as always, we started off mic with an authentic movement practice and then push record. Thank you for listening. One was like, that did not feel like 5 minutes, which usually I feel like I get time pretty well. And in moving, I had such a sense of like, I can't find my groove, like the thing I'm curious about. Felt like all of this is fine. None of it is fine. All of it's, I don't know, like sometimes I'll fall into like a sensation or something where I'm like, yeah, I want to get in there and know. And I was just beginning to find something when it was time. And then watching, I was like struck with how, one, your willingness to just like be seen first moving too, but because it's like your face, and sometimes, especially with Zoom, like the face is obscured or something, but like the permission to just like stare at you while you were moving felt so tender. And like and then I had, sort of stories of like looking at your environment and the mugs and the plants and like things that your body's in contact with and touching, and has such a you-ness to it. I feel like I was watching your environment like you were part of it much more than here's Jesse moving and then there's this other stuff. Felt very much like a combination of things that had equal value or something.
Well, thank you for that. Wonder what you witnessed that was tender. That I'm like self-conscious about it. Like I should have hidden it
I
or
felt
something.
tender. I felt tender.
But yeah, I just started moving my head a little bit, and then my apartment's so quiet, and I could hear like bones.
In your neck.
Yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
I just was playing with that, like, what are all the ways that I can make this sound, and what do I have to do to make it so that it's not making any sound? And uh felt like a nice way to wake up. And then watching you, uh you like picked up things, you made sounds, you threw stuff, you uh I was like, whoa, there's like, I could have done way more, you know? There's all sorts of things that uh I didn't think about. Um I yeah, I it's really been on my mind, like, what are all the rules that I follow?
Mm.
Um and when I notice something like that, it looks liberating, and it doesn't look like I needed to follow the rule that was there for myself. But maybe I needed permission from you.
Mm. Is this the first
Uh
time you've done AM?
uh no. Did it like a few times, like, years ago. But that was in a physical space, and
Mm.
it was like meditating on a theme, so it wasn't a blank canvas.
Mm. You had a
We
prompt or
watched
something.
we watched a video, and we were supposed to move the way the video made us feel.
Ah, I
Yeah.
wouldn't call that AM. I would call it improvisation, but
Well, they called it AM. So
who are these people?
breaking all the rules. Uh, who do you say that I am? Uh, and then you hid behind the microphone for a long time.
Mm. I know it's such a
But
big thing in the way.
what what you what you just said, the like, I wouldn't call that AM. Like, I think about that a lot, not with AM, but with what uh with parkour for me,
Yeah.
you know. Uh
I'm being facetious, only in that if there's a mover and a witness, it's, I would say, by and large, holds an authentic movement paradigm. And it doesn't matter. It's sort of like, right. Um, I think there's something fascinating about not having a prompt, but I mean, I work with prompts a lot too. But I hear what you're saying, which
this
is like,
may,
does
may,
the experience match the language definition? Or
yeah, maybe there's always a prompt even when there's not a prompt. Maybe you could ask that question after every AM. What is the prompt? What was the prompt?
well, for you, it sounds like in witnessing, the prompt was around rules, or like that's sort of what the lens you were viewing it through. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's like, what
What
is the frame with
what
which
am I
you're,
allowed to do? Yeah, what's the frame? Yeah.
yeah. Because when I was watching you, there was such an honest, sort of pinpoint focus of I want to see how this feels,
Mm,
which is often I would say like a door I go through a lot is
yeah.
sensation. Especially with eyes closed, it opens up that whole internal space in a different way.
Yeah. I do think I played a small game, so I didn't really try to push limits. I don't know what pushing limits would look like, but making sound and props were definitely out of the rules.
Opening your eyes, that would be part of it. That would be a rule
What?
break.
Yeah.
So if I say impulse, what does that mean to you? What is your understanding of that?
Um, uh, like if you were a tree about to grow, you'd have all these different branches coming outwards, and the impulse is like the moment before that growth.
Mm, a thrust towards aliveness, like a motion towards expression of aliveness, maybe.
Yeah, I think like even there for me, it's like I want to notice the impulse. I want to like analyze the impulse, so it doesn't feel like a thrust. It feels like a constraint. Like where would this go?
Mm,
Not
considered.
a yeah. I think it's like a compelled directionality, but not. It's not the movement itself. It's like the wanting.
Mm, I love that. Yes. Because the action is something else. The impulse is before it. Yeah.
Although I wonder what situations I'm in that I allow myself to be impulsive,
I was
which
about to
I guess
ask.
would be like moving from the impulse.
Yeah, like where are the unconsidered um non-dual focus tracking experiences? I mean, people call it flow or um
Um,
oneness, I guess, but like where does that exist where it's not that you're not tracking because you can recall the moment later, like you can reflect and be like, oh, I jumped that thing. But at
yeah,
no point were you watching and considering yourself while you were doing it. You were all wholly invested in the action.
yeah. I think snowboarding is compelling
Hmm.
that in me. Um, at least like really shortening the gap because you can be going pretty fast and you have to make. I don't even know if it's like the decisions like you have to make. You have to allow the feelings to guide you, the physical feelings.
Do you think speed is part of that loss of the lessening of that gap?
Yeah, because if you're not like tuned to like how it feels, then you will crash, I think. Uh,
So stakes, speed and stakes, maybe.
speed and stakes. Yeah.
There are times we've experimented in an authentic movement practice where um, the prompt was don't stop moving, move faster than your thoughts. That was a prompt KD gave us one time.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was a sort of for me, the experience was moving fast and having no concept of what I was doing or necessarily even feeling it, but staying there long enough began to feel really honest, actually, because I wasn't choosing. I wasn't in the place of feeling my arm lift out to the side and rotating it back. There was no reception of the choices I was making. They were just so fast that I didn't feel like I was even necessarily making them. And there's something kind of liberating around that, to lose the considering mind.
Yeah. I think it happens in tag.
Totally. Yes.
Um,
Which is funny because it's so counter what we're sort of taught in these, you know, mindfulness body movement spaces. There's and in SE as well, somatic experiencing is so much about slowing things down so that you can fully experience them. There's a part of me that holds with equal value speed and not considering, um, even though I recognize it as potential risk.
what is like fully experience mean?
Yeah, good question.
Like
Well, let's see.
like there's some amount of time that you need to have per amount of time to be able to notice enough that what you're doing feels like worthwhile.
Right? Is
And
it like a quantity of awareness that creates a sated, I'm aware now? Can you be aware in a
yeah,
split second? They talk about this all the time. Like you get in a car accident and time slows down and you can feel every single, right, nanosecond.
yeah,
So our perception of awareness having to pertain to a certain pace
yeah.
seems prescribed, right?
We talk about that with like uh, in parkour. Flow usually means that you are moving like the exact same speed through your entire run, whether that's fast or slow or whatever. Like that, it's like perfectly smooth.
What
There's
was the
not a lot of
first part of that? What was it
like
called?
the in like flow. It's called flow,
Okay.
like as a movement quality, not like a brain state. Um, like to have flow is to move like totally smoothly through something, and it's not. It can be fast, it can be slow, but it's like totally continuous. You're not being slowed down by the movements you're doing at all. Um, and it's really interesting because like as you're working on a run, as you get these like more technical moments or like, oh, this part I'm going like a little bit slower or something, you start focusing on that. Like the focus distends the time and the sense of whether or not you're going smoothly. Like you can watch a video and because you like focused so much at this part, like maybe you feel like it's a little faster or maybe you feel like it's a little bit slower and you stop losing the sense of just your path of center of gravity or some part of your body moving.
It feels like such I'm thinking of like responsivity is immediate to the moment. There's some like there's some simultaneous loss of knowing. Like, I don't know what it's going to feel like to put my hands on that picnic table. And then absolute responsivity to, I put them too far, which means I have to adjust my body differently. But that's so quickly, it's not even a conversation. It's, I don't know. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess my question is like, if time is like totally relative, then can we fully experience something by going really quickly also? Like what does it mean to go slow or to go quick? And can you speed up that awareness process? Can you play with that, or do you always have to bring your movement to your awareness's level instead of demand your awareness to meet the movement level?
Mm.
And yeah, all those like those corrections. Think about this picture I just saw of like a master craftsman swinging their hammer 30 times, and it's you see 30 different paths. And this is someone who all they do all day is to swing the hammer. We have this idea of like perfection being like the same thing every time, but
Mm.
this is like perfect reactivity, perfect adaptability, certainly a high amount of awareness for what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. And in choice making that sort of bypasses any intellectual conversation. There's no time to be like, oh, I should have swung that just a little bit to the right, so I'll try that this time. Like, none of that is even part of the conversation. It's so immediate. I want to circle back to your question, because now it's really sitting with me. What does it mean to fully experience something? What is that? I don't know what that means. Oh, I can't see you. You're backlit. Does it mean that so let me try. Like, if I move my arm out, also fully is a word to consider. I guess in this context, if what does it mean to be fully aware, what was it? Fully experience. I guess it's that I feel the most amount of sensation associated with that movement, sensation, emotion, thinking. All of those channels are as open as they can be when I'm doing that. I would say that would be the way I would explain fully experiencing.
So does that mean that there's like a checklist of awarenesses that like all have to have checked in order to be fully, because like you're like doing a movement, right? But there's also like standing practice, like you'll stay standing or still in some form for like maybe 10 minutes or 30 minutes or something, and then you can do that, and then you can see like, okay, like I stay still for 30 minutes to show that I'm not staying still at all, that there is no like stillness.
Right.
And then like, well, why not do it twice as slow as what you just did? Why is that satisfactory? And if you would get more out of twice as slow, then to do all your movements now have to be twice as slow. But this is like, no, this is good enough. This is the right amount. If I go a little quicker, I can't notice this thing.
I mean, I'm starting to shift into more of a like perhaps like physiobiological, I don't know if that's the right word, definition, which would be more around like the capacity of stimulation, like the amount of things you can actually receive through your nervous system and experience. So there's a whole lot of stuff I'm not experiencing when I'm experiencing my arm move, like the whole rest of my body I'm unaware of. So fully in this context just means fully to the amount that those channels of stimulation are able to take in and receive information. But there's absolutely a cap in what we can perceive and what the amount of stimulation we're able to take in. So maybe it's just there's like, how to what extent of that capacity are you using? Maybe it's that.
But then there's your awareness of your awareness, and like what is the sliver of movement that you're actually like analyzing. Like I can spend 30 seconds analyzing the first 1 second of this movement, or like is this the like I don't know. I don't know if there is that. Maybe there's a speed at which like there's enough like I don't know, stillness or quietness in the mind that you can pay attention to what you want to pay attention to. Or
I mean, I think about it like when people come to New York and they aren't here often. And there's this reaction of like, oh my God, there's so much stimulation, there's so much action and movement and blah, 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 blah. Everybody is so sort of like eyes down, AirPods in. And I always say, well, you know, they've found a way to be comfortable inside this amount of stimulation, and it requires deadening certain senses and or focusing some so that you are not overstimulated constantly. But I also think, I mean, Matt might argue that you can't, it's not like stimulation continues to increase. Like there's perhaps a hard line in which you can no longer receive information. That's what happens inside trauma, right? Like when you move into a state of survival, your ability to perceive or sense is diminished because so much energy and bandwidth is taken up with staying alive.
so we'll do things like we talk about like a wide focus versus a narrow focus. Sometimes it's used as like a hunter versus prey. Like the hunter can see the whole forest and decide like, okay, what am I going to do based on where the prey is going, and the prey is just like running away, right? So we'll do things where we're like totally exhausting our focus. We're doing really technically demanding things, powerful things, exhaustive things sequenced together, and then we have to do something that demands like a tremendous amount of like awareness. Like now we have to like balance and play catch after we just did this like wild powerful run. Now balance and play catch, and then we do that for a little bit, then we go back and we're playing like with the focus to see if we can become better at keeping this wide focus in those situations that do like stress the nervous system out, that can like simulate physical trauma.
God, I love that. And I'm thinking immediately of, I mean, I love tag and I love chase. And I've thought a lot about like the predator prey energy and where does it get expressed? And, you know, when you're an adult,
Well,
especially where you're not
this
playing
is
tag.
also
Yeah.
like, you know, the quality of your awareness during like a workout. Like, can you stay light and happy and joking while you're like pushing your body to its like absolute limit, or are you like just struggling to survive? And what does that do to like you? That's also a result of the workout, right? Like it's not like that's why like the no pain no gain and like just push through it, and like all of that is like uh those are really like low level, like low mental state level like goals for how you want to move through anything that's challenging, right?
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you're talking about repatterning nervous system default modes, right? Like, so when I'm the prey, my focus narrows, my body tightens. I'm solely focused on evading. But perhaps if I'm able to maybe lower the stakes, I realize I'm not going to be killed because it's a game. Can I also widen or play with that nervous system state. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
maybe that also like improves the capacity for like all survival.
God, that's super cool to think about. I mean, even in chase, so if you're the chaser, what are they called?
Uh,
The
yeah, the
predator.
chaser and the evader.
Chaser? Okay.
Yeah.
If you are the chaser, I mean, your focus also narrows to a certain degree because you have such a specific, clear task to get, right? So there's a whole lot of stuff, information and stimulation that you're not paying attention to because you're solely focused on the evader. Do you also play with that state of widening, or because it makes me think of when I've seen Chase Tag, the show, where they're in, if anybody doesn't know, it's like the world chase tag. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
And you're in a square and it has all these obstacles. I'm fascinated with how they're responding to obstacles in the way of that task. Like that's so interesting. And it challenges kind of what you're saying, which is it feels like it's replicating.
I think if you want to be successful, like I think you're right, it can narrow, but if you want to be successful, you need to hold open the possibility that like the prey is going to do one of these 4 different things. So how can I optimize my position around these 4 things? Or how can I play with my position to compel them in a particular way? How do my decisions affect their decisions? I think well, the sadness I have around that whole game is that the course stays exactly the same every time. There's several people that train on that very specific course, and what they've done is develop like choreographies and sequences that work really well in different areas. They'll like keep those secret and then like kind of use them on the next time that they compete. They'll play with just their team, and they'll like kind of hide these strategies. And the sadness for me is like I've for so long been trying to like push and validate the use of like improvisational movement in parkour, in movement practice, because well, 1, like I think it can feel like really liberating, and 2, I think if not chase tag, but if you're just playing tag or if you're just running, you're just trying to actually go somewhere, like how smart is the body that is solving that problem? Like, can that body become smart only with like choreography, only with like practicing set predetermined sequences? Like you look at these videos and the truth is like every moment of that video, maybe athletes have spent like an hour on that particular moment, and then they've put it all together into this beautiful 30-second sequence, and it looks like, wow, this person can really move. But what would it take for them to be able to go to a spot and just do that, like without the hour chunk, like with like just the free expression of their body, seeing what's possible and dynamically reacting and being able to do that? I think it would be incredible. And I thought that this tag would like really push people into like improvisational work. Like, can I become totally comfortable with this space? Can I like move in absolutely any direction? Like, and that isn't the work that I'm seeing. Maybe it's because I'm not pushing it.
I mean, so I hear 2 different value systems, really. So the choreography one, it's like football, right? They're like plays that you can pull out and use. I don't know much shit about football. I think that's how it goes. Like there's choreography, right? That you can implement given a certain set of circumstances. And people know that. So they aren't swindled into thinking it's completely made up. I mean, there's always the risk of like, you have to make your own decision because our choreography failed here or something else came in the mix.
Yeah.
But they're also really, they value the virtuosity of it. So there's the similar to dance. So I can see the same dance, but there's something about the skill, the virtuosic element of this body moving with skill and with knowing. To me, there's like a value around it's aesthetic. Well, but both are. So I don't know if that's a good word to use there. So there's the value around the virtuosity of seeing something done very well. That's a value. And the other value is responsivity and decision making that is emergent, and a value being placed there, which similar to me, I hold very dear. And I would maybe say, well, maybe not more than, because I do love skill. I've been thinking a lot about the way it feels to have skill, to do something with skill. There's an incredible amount of satisfaction, and that clarity of like nailing a thing is it's good. I think there's something really amazing about that feeling. And in equal measure, there's something amazing about the surprise that happens when the right choice is made spontaneously.
I think it's so weird. Like I'm a pacifist, but I've used like hunter and prey, and then I have this other like military analogy, like it's called the OODA loop, and the OODA loop was discovered or identified like within fighter pilots. What they found is that the fighter pilots that were technically the best fighters, they could do all the best tricks, they could like aim and shoot the best, were not the ones that were winning like dogfights. So why aren't these guys the ones who are winning? And the ones who are winning are the ones who have the shortest like OODA loop, which is like orient, observe, decide, act. Like, where am I? What do I see? What am I going to do? I'll do it. It doesn't matter if like I'm continuously making the wrong decision. If I'm quickly making new decisions, that loop is really fast, then I'll win. And then like thinking about tag, which like I haven't competed in, I'm not particularly interested in what competition does to me as a person. I'm not sure that competition does great things to a community, although a lot of my dear friends think that it's wonderful and think it's good for the community and good for themselves. I'm still not sure. But I want like an athlete to win in this way, in this improvisational way, just so it can like burst validation through the entire community to say like, the only way to train is not choreography. Like you don't only have to train this way. You can just let yourself go. You can just like follow these impulses. You can just like use that to inform your movement as well. And it might be worth like exploring.
Do you think that that's inherent on there being a goal to win, to fight, to evade, to like?
I think this is my like judgment mind. It's not only that it's inherent to a goal, but that in the pursuit of a goal, we want to control like the outcome. We want to control ourselves through a process. And when the process is or feels like nebulous, then it's a little bit harder to like define. Like it's easy to do 30 of this, like 30 reps by 5 sets or something of this exercise, or we're going to practice a specific choreography because this is something that we can control and define. And I think it's harder to say like we're going to spend 5 hours moving blindfolded on the set until we like know it completely, like it's totally mapped in our heads, and then we're going to like spend a lot of time like rolling around on it, like trying to get used to parts of our body that are not our hands or our feet, like interacting with every part of this structure. And yeah, I don't know. I don't
It
know
sounds like
what.
I'm thinking about how, I mean, I feel like I know your position kind of well, but that's always changing and different. But I would say inside that, I hear something that feels very true to you, which is not just leveling the playing field, but also kind of disrupting the hierarchical systems of skill in themselves. Like, and this is something I talk about a lot with movement as a sort of, especially when it comes to movement, especially when it comes to bodies. And I think it gets tricky when you're moving into more conversations around different bodies and different skill, different abilities. But
Yeah.
it sounds like there's a desire inside you for there not to be an advantage for one person based on their training.
Well, I definitely want that. I think that, like, you were surprised to find out the course doesn't change. And I think
Yeah.
I think that this is one of our underlying assumptions, that this is like a game of tag, and that they're like really figuring something out. But some of the athletes have that in their backyard, the exact same course, and some of the athletes have to like simulate some version of the course in the best way they can. And that's a very different like training environment.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be, I know it would be more interesting to me to see it randomized, because I want to see that, like I want to see the animal like unleashed. And I think a lot of it is the disruptive, like I'm seeing where people are creating these rules that don't exist and then following them and then like teaching them, and then now like a larger number of people are now subscribing to rules that like totally made up. And I think it's like the accessibility thing, I think, is maybe a little bit separate, but I do think that this can make for more accessible like movement programming. That is to say, like the improvisational work can open up the space for like everybody to explore at the limits of their experience and awareness.
I have two thoughts, and I can feel how they're sort of like maybe at odds with each other. But one is, and I think this is where you and I really overlap, is a very deep desire for people to reclaim movement away from experts. If you have a body, you can move. No one taught you how to walk. Nobody taught you how to crawl. You literally know how to move. The idea that you have to go talk to somebody and learn how to move can make me crazy. And that I think more than that, because there are people who have studied running and have really important, great, helpful information to pass along. So I'm not speaking about specific, although even that, but anyway. So there's a desire for me, and I think it comes, I get very animated when I see people self-limiting because they're not an expert or they haven't taken a class or they don't know how to do that, especially with dance. So being a dancer and people's inhibition to dance or move their body because they're not dancers is so sad and deeply upsetting to me, mostly because I find such joy in moving around. So there's that part, which I'm like, absolutely reclaim movement, like fuck the experts, right? Like you have a body, move around, explore. What can it do? What do you enjoy doing? What hurts? What makes you feel stronger? These are things you can find out. And then there's the other part of me that's maybe a little more compassionate. It's just like, it's through acculturation or whatever we've kind of adopted and learned, there's a lot of fear and pain and that can come with moving in ways or feeling like you don't know how to move or have the time or energy to really explore movement that way. So you need to go take a class that helps you learn how to move, right? So of course, I think there's something around something like with the leveling of the playing field, the reclamation of our bodies, and I mean any body in any form. And I hear that in a lot of what you say, and with parkour, I'm like moving outside too, just being outside, knowing that there are people who won't lift their arms up because it feels weird and it would make people would look at them strange, but feeling a deep desire to do that. I'm like, oh, what? Like I feel, and I think part of it from my SE lens is knowing that making a scene, right? Like jumping on something because you want to, can bring about unwanted attention, which puts you in a position of prey. Really, it can elicit a response of like, I'm in danger now because I'm getting attention. So I think there's an understanding of how we work in these systems of living in close proximity and these systems of pathways and walking and that create, at some level, care for each other, and how limiting they are in keeping us from moving the ways we want to move. And so we end up having to design specific spaces in order to move specific ways, which you and I both, I think, would agree sucks. Not just for that person, but for everybody around who doesn't see options and possibility. Like, oh, you can do that? I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah. When I must have been like 17 or 18, I remember like a very specific jump. It was from a fence to a tree branch in Central Park. And I remember noticing that I could do the jump when I was by myself. And then I brought some buddies there and I could do the jump when I was with buddies. But then when there were like strangers around, I couldn't do the jump. And it was like such a fantastic opportunity. And I decided like I really want to be able to. And I feel like working on that over the course of like a few months to it's not like ignore feels like this like active thing. Like it's just that would be the opposite of paying attention, but it's still like, I don't know, when you're ignoring, usually you're still paying complete attention, or you have this like, I don't know, big black spot of attention here that just masking, like I'm not paying attention, but I'm really paying attention. Like, can I become totally like non-attached? Can I like just allow myself to like breathe easy and be myself and do this movement? And it was so rewarding to get that. And yeah, we got some criticism about one of the classes we have. Like one of the adults was like, oh, you can only do this because you guys are white and we're like being destructive to property and we shouldn't be doing this and we should be over there. And it's like, I feel like I've thought down all of those paths, and like down all of those paths is like a smaller and smaller box of where it's appropriate to move and how it's appropriate to move. And New York City already has like one of the smallest boxes for that, like imaginable. Like it's smaller than your apartment. You can't even do everything you want there. There's not a lot of hanging in most apartments.
Sound.
Sound. So when can you like fully express yourself? I I think about how much my practice has changed also, like when you bring up sound, like I remember being like a rowdy, rambunctious teenager and getting kicked out of spots. And then I remember like changing my practice so that it can blend in, so that it looks a little bit more like an exercise class. And now we can have 30 people like training in what looks like an exercise class, but still jumping wall to wall and vaulting and doing all of the parkour movements. And then you get like 3 or 4 teenagers and they get kicked out like that. It's like, oh, like, and for a long time I was like, yeah, it's the teenagers that are wrong, they should be training this way. And now I'm like, where did they get to just do that? And I got to do that. Like I got kicked out for it, but I got to do it, and it helped shape me. And wouldn't it be nice if I could just do it? And then I go to Denmark, and then out in the city we can do that, and we can just be wild, and then people like walking by are just really supportive of it, and they think it's super cool. And it's like, oh, this is like a totally different cultural attitude around movement exploration, around like property, around space. Like, is New York City like the city that we want it to be? Like have we really asked everybody? Well, we know it's not like all the rules are set up by us or people that we know. Like the rules have been set up like over the course of like hundreds of years, and like we don't want to listen to most of those people back then about how we should live. Like we don't agree with them about so many things, and we've changed so many things in our ideas, but then the rigidity of the rules that have been put in place like really restrict the possibilities of the space in a way that's not fair. So I think like, yeah, like push the boundaries, like get kicked out of the spots a little bit, and see if you can notice like, okay, it's not just the getting kicked out of spots, it's like that I'm trying to swing on the scaffolding, but people that are like walking by, and it's like, but there's something here, like can I find something inside of me that like allows them to react the way that they want to react, any way that they want to react, and still allows me to like express myself in the way that I want to express myself here? Can I still do this movement? Can I jump from bar to bar or swing through something? Can I feel liberated in this moment that otherwise could feel so constricted? And if I can do that, then maybe I'm on like a path to my own like future liberation in whatever else is like crunched up.
Preach. Yes. I mean, you're describing why I do seem. I mean, you're describing essentially like, if someone's aware of me, can I still inhabit honestly and authentically who I am? Or do I constantly need to prove value, exercise this, fake ignoring? I don't see you. You're not there. I'm doing what I want, even though we all know that's bullshit. Are you aware that there's a person there and their reactions to you are about them, not about you? Like all of these layers of how we inhabit movement and bodies. And I mean, in some ways I might push back just to say, yes, we don't have big, open, unpopulated spaces to scream and rage. And I remember it was probably May of 2020. And this is going like right into lockdown. And I have, as you know, I've never have worked at home. I've always been out in different boroughs and ridden 8 trains, and moving around the day was what kept me sane. And then we got into this place where I was literally in one room with my children and school. And I thought I was going to lose my mind. And I'll never forget going upstate in an open field and just yelling my ass off. Like I needed to make sound. I needed to take up space differently. I felt so inhibited and held down and trapped. So yeah, those open spaces of release and permission and anonymity, privacy, those don't really exist here. But I would also argue that the amount of range of how to be a human in the city when you're really out in it is so broad that if you decided that you wanted to release and rage on the corner, you absolutely probably could, right? Like people would be like, ugh, this lady. I keep on going, like there is so much permission for so many different ways to be. Whereas if I was somewhere else, that might call, EMT or cop, who knows what would be brought in to remedy this disruption. Whereas I
Yeah.
think New York City really allows for so many variations in how we are in our bodies and how we're moving. But I hear what you're saying too, which is you're constantly having to contend with other bodies and humans.
Well, like, you're not supposed to climb the trees. And yeah, I've gotten asked to stop when I was doing push-ups on a bench because that's not what the benches are made for. Like, this is push-ups. Like, what are the parks made for? Like, what are we doing? And where am I allowed to do a push-up in the park? Uh and I remember like working with a couple brothers on the Lower East Side, and we're at a playground, and uh, then there's I think one was 8 and one was 11, and we're jumping around, and then there's like a 6-year-old, and she's starting to copy us, and some random parent like walks by. I don't even know if they were a parent, but a person, and it's like, hey, like, they're copying you, like, this is dangerous, you shouldn't let this happen. And then the parent of the 6-year-old is like, no, I love this, like, it's great that they're doing this, I want her to copy them, like, that's fantastic. And like, they like have a fight, and I think like, you're right, there is this like large permissive range, but there's like a very vocal, fear-based, like, upset minority that like really don't want you to do this thing. Like, you're balancing up high and somebody yells like, get down from there, you're gonna hurt yourself. Or like, like, they have this really big energy, and you're trying to like focus, and like, you don't want to hurt yourself. Absolutely not. Like, that's like, if you get hurt, you don't get to do the thing that you really enjoy doing. Uh and there's this like almost like violent reaction to some of the expressions that we're making when we're going out and moving. And you're right, like, that's not everybody, and most of the time this is like totally ignored, and you can be as crazy as you want in the city, but you can also like be shaped by those, like, over time. I think they can wear you down. Or we had this huge big public playground uh up on Governor's Island for like a couple summers, and then we wanted to come back the next summer, and there was a complaint uh that, like, somebody fell and got hurt near the playground. And like, this is a free project, we put like thousands of dollars into like making this all happen, building it, like, tons of time, uh and it served like maybe hundreds of thousands of people over the course of a couple years, all these people going out to Governor's Island. And just, as far as I can tell, like, one complaint, and it's like, how complaint based is the development of our society? Like, how complaint based is the development of you? Like,
Hmm. That feeling of like it wearing you down. I mean, that makes me instantly flash to aging. Like, when people say like, you grow up and you sort of give up fighting for those things, or you basically acquiesce to, whatever, I won't go on the park bench that way anymore. And, I think I see it in the older generation, certainly in terms of bodies. Like, I can't do that anymore, or I'm too old, or those comments about what is allowed, what you're allowed to do, or what's okay. And also, I try to remember maybe there's comfort in just, I don't know, surrendering to the form that you're within. I don't know. Acceptance maybe, or a desire to fight for something else. I mean, when you're saying it, I really feel it, which is like, fucking move how you want to move, like get wherever you want to go. I mean, yeah, my kids were climbing all over scaffolding and their hands were black, and people would say, you should get down, or that's not safe, or that, they might get cut. And that's the other thing, is our cultural perception of injury and harm is like, is the goal here to never be injured? Because wow. So like plastic bubble your whole life, is that what we're trying to do here? Right? Like, what is our cultural reaction to harm? And it starts to move in. I mean, it's easy for me to sort of slip right away into physiological responses to rupture and repair. And I think it stems from when there's rupture, when there's injury, there's not proper repair. So the fear around it is more or less warranted, because there's an experience of repair not being sufficient or not being available. But were we to be in a culture where repair was really first and foremost, it required a lot of energy and attention and care, would we have so much alarm and fear around injury? I don't know.
Well, I taught a teen event in Denmark, and a kid jumped and cut his shin to the bone, and nobody lost their cool the whole process. Not the coach, not the organizers, not the kid. Like, everybody knew this kid was going to be okay, that this it sucked, but they like got in the hospital. He got the care he needed. He came back. He was hanging out with his buddies. He couldn't do any jumping for the rest of the weekend. He got stitched up. And that's not the experience with an injury here,
Right.
The whole thing, like the whole process is more traumatic. Like there's it's potentially financially traumatic, but the initial impulse is like, everybody has to rush over. Everybody's got to see if you're okay. Like, it's totally overwhelming, like very constricting. You go to the hospital, and then you have to like do this maze of paperwork and waiting and making sure are you in the right place, the right thing?
Do you have insurance?
Yeah. Do you have insurance? Is this gonna get handled? Like, are these people totally overworked? Are these like, what's going on here? Like, am I gonna get the support I need? And how long is it gonna take? And it's a very different experience.
And I will say there's an overcorrection for that, which is the machismo, fuck it. Which is like, to me, an overcorrection around injury and care, which is that, and coming from personal experience of not really being able to feel when enough is enough, like training myself to the point of being ill or being, baseline abusive to my own body, just not because the culture that I was in was held this machismo, like, you got this. Also, I'm a strong, independent woman. Like, I'm not going to show any frailty. I'm not going to pamper and whine about something that's hurting. I'm going to push through it. I mean, there's a strong dancer mentality of, I can feel everything and I can override all of it. Like, it's not that I can't feel it. I'm not shut down. It's that I have absolute choice to override any concern or care or adjustment. So I'll dance that piece with a broken foot. Like, you hear about this. And to me, it's like an overcorrection of what you're describing. I don't know if it's a correction. I would say it's where it gets squeezed out sideways because perhaps there's not more of a culture of care in place.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. To that, a couple of things come up there. Like one is that I I trust athletes who have been hurt before a lot more with like decisions they're making around like jumps that they're doing. Like we're trying to do things that could get you pretty hurt, and when I see like some kids move through progressions like really 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 quickly, and it's just like they're now where they have found their limits is much higher like physical stakes, and uh they might have been better off to get hurt when the stakes were not so high.
Yeah.
Not that I'm wishing anyone gets hurt. um but then I'm also thinking about this guy. I went to an event down in DC, and I think for like 6 hours he is just doing this like big running jump, and he's not doing it, it's just like slamming into the wall like over and over, and it's like this is, and at the time I was very judgmental, like, if it takes you that long to do it, then you're really not ready for it. Like I think especially at that time I was training, and even now I'm trying to be able to get things that are like at my limit on my first try, and it's just like a fun extra challenge. And because I'm critical of this meditation, not that I don't think it's important, but it's another kind of dominating manifestation of parkour, just like the we're going to practice sequenced choreography. One of the ways that people really love to practice is like, I'm going to fail at this over and over for a really long time. I'm going to spend this is one of the meditations of parkour though. And then I think that is like also a season of life. Like you're saying, like maybe there's like a growing up, like there's like a fire there. And I think I was quick to rush out of the fire, but like I still have the fire, so I need to explore that myself. Like you can see I'm like passionate about this, and I don't need to like rush past or try to like grow up beyond this. Like I think I can do something about this. Doing push-ups in parks, I think we can make movement more acceptable in public space in New York City. I think public space belongs to the public, and that like we're a part of the public, and we deserve to have a physical say of how these spaces can be used. And what we're doing is healthy, and I think I wanted to be seen as healthy and accepted as healthy. And that would feel very, I imagine that would feel very validating to see like progress around that. And I think we've made a lot of steps in that direction. And I think at some point I will say, I don't need to fight this anymore. Like I'm gonna go have a nice warm drink and relax. But I don't have to rush to that.
Yeah, well, I appreciate your mission because, I mean, let's see, you've known Ryan since he was what, 3 or 4? I mean, Mike met him when he was 4. Mike was his teacher when he was 4. So he's 12 now. So you guys have been in our circle for a long time. And I can see how free my children are, how I would say they're able to inhabit their own bodies and their desire for movement really authentically in public places, which for me, it was always in studio. So that was always exciting that it was actually out in the world. And I had even in college, I remember doing a site specific dance which makes me laugh because I'm like, does this even, I don't think this works. Like, just, I don't know why. It can feel, it just felt very put on. And I think it's because it was not, I think it's been done very well. I haven't been part of those processes. This was one where it was taking movement and bringing it into the environment. And to me, what is lacking there is relationship to environment. You're just like transporting the dance. And the thing to me about parkour that is so exciting, and I hear you sort of talking about this in different ways, is it is about relationship. It's a relationship to environment. It's a relationship to movement, to other people in this space. It's relationship to people telling you to stop and having to deal with that conflict. Like, so much of it is about, and when I think of this guy you were describing, like running into the wall over and over again, who am I to decide the right relationship he is supposed to have with his impulse? I don't know what he's working through or what that's about. And I think as long as there's a conversation and there is attention towards relationship, then the next question is like, how can we allow that authentic relating be seen or witnessed or be more a part of our lives? Like, and I think the gift that you and the movement creative offers is all these other ways to relate. There's a whole different way of relating to, I mean, my children don't look at picnic tables as places to eat. I mean, we know that's an option, but these are other things. These are other opportunities. And that comes from that shifting of how can I relate to this differently? And I think it changes how you relate to people. No? What do you think?
I'm thinking about this like exercise Ruby told me about. They like have this traverse in Jackson Heights across a wall, and it's like on an office building, and they're like gonna go past some offices, so they're like really worried. I think they're like, oh, we're gonna get like the cops called on us or something. Like the kids are like very worried about it, so like most of the group is gonna stand like way back, and then like two people are gonna go at a time, and like this is just like a little way to like, can we test the water on this a little bit? And like, then I also think like at the school in Denmark, we would climb on the walls like across the office, and then the people in the office would like poke their heads out and say like, oh, hey, like, cool. Very supportive of it. And maybe there's like a little authentic movement moment happening there on the person who's sitting at their desk and the kid that is like climbing on the wall outside. And maybe it's like a little bit of an invitation that like, well, nobody called the cops, by the way, but like what, like being able to choose the reaction there, and also being able to like, for all of those like kids to be able to check like, all right, maybe I can push the boundary here a little bit. So I don't know whether it's a good or a bad thing. Now they're climbing on buildings.
Good.
But,
undoubtedly good.
but it creates a little bit of a interesting, like there's the gap of what like they think is appropriate, and then there's like what everybody thinks is appropriate, which is like nothing is appropriate. Like somebody will have something to say about everything, and there's like, okay, I think I'm allowed to do this, and then there's like what's actually restricted and not a good idea, like over here. And I'm like, playing in this range, like I think there's a lot of value there. That is like, that's the risk management, that's the creativity, that's the like, I mean, I have a job that I did not see anybody else have at the time that I decided that I wanted to have this job. I've created a company that was not modeled off of another thing that I thought existed. It was like a hodgepodge of like, I think this might be possible. And that's what we continue to do with movement creative. Like we want it to keep being like, I think this might be possible. I think it might be possible for us to make decisions in this really stupid way, and to like make classes work in this really stupid way, and to make like pricing, and to make pay, and to make all of the different elements of what makes a company work, like everything, like looking at it through that same lens of like, here's what I think is appropriate, this is what like, and most people say all of it is stupid and don't do any of it, and then like this is like a big gap that I can push and explore.
I love that. I mean, I think of it as like the edge zone where risk and vulnerability are large components of it. The possibility of failure is also in there. And if you're able to physically explore the edge place of being vulnerable, of taking a risk and possibly failing, how could that not influence the way you make decisions? Because once you learn you're okay, even if you fail, you're okay if you get injured, you're okay if the cops get called and tell you to leave, you're still okay. You're essentially repatterning your physiological response to that gap that you're describing.
Yeah. This guy, Dr. Rabbi Mark Gaffney, says, in order to give your unique gift and live your unique self, which is to fulfill your unique obligation, that is your unique responsibility, you have to be willing to take your unique risk.
Hmm.
To give your unique gift and live your unique self. Yeah.
I love that. Send that to me.
Yeah.
I mean, that's sort of at the heart of, to me, authentic movement practice is, it's all of that in the container of a relationship. Like, I'm risking being seen without being able to shape or edit your perception or control it. I'm risking like having to contend with myself in front of someone. I don't know, and seeing also feels like a risk. I think there are times where I'm watching somebody and it feels like, ugh, am I allowed to just look at them? That feels like a risk. Or
Yeah.
I have a question. This is totally sideways or off topic.
Yeah.
I would like to hear a little bit about Embrace Challenge, and I also want to challenge it or ask a question about it.
Well,
Yeah.
I think it's easy. It's easy for me to challenge it as well.
Yeah. How would you challenge it?
Yeah. Well, I've just seen in my life that like using it as a default for a really long period of time, like I can manipulate myself or be manipulated into like situations that are not healthy. Like, and there's also like, maybe my challenge is not to push myself like crazy, but to relax, or any number of things like that. Yeah. I was really suicidal growing up, like from the time I was 9, maybe younger than that. I think as young as 6, I like really started thinking about killing myself, uh, and somehow otherwise like getting out of the situation that I was in. Like I think the idea of wanting to kill yourself is a close cousin to wanting to quit your job or break up with your partner, or like run away from your life. I think they're all related. I really need this change, and on the following, like my last attempt when I was 21, I failed, and I don't think I've ever like felt so bad. I don't think anything could bum me out more than like totally wanting to escape to the point of trying to, and then waking up and being stuck. And it's like, now what can I do? I can't even do that. Like, now I'm really stuck. I thought I was stuck before, but at least I had like, the hope of this escape, however like dark or gruesome that is. So that hope was no more. And then somehow the brain can think in opposites, and the I started thinking like, why do I want to die? It's like, okay, like I want to die because love doesn't exist in the world, and I want to die because it's impossible to exist ethically in this world. And then there was like a little like playful nudge, like, okay, like what if it was only you? Could there be love if it was just you bringing love to the world? Like, could there be like ethical business if it was only you in the world? It's like totally like self-important, masturbatory, like, all right, like I'm gonna go save the world or something. But the question was really like you're saying this is impossible because of your, well, now I can tell how narrow my scope of experience was at that time. But I was really saying, like, in all the world that I've seen, like these things don't exist in the way that I think they ought to. And Embrace Challenge is like it's me boiling down the nudge to say, like, have you even tried? Like, you have given up, but like, did you even try to do this? And it was like almost like a handshake agreement with myself, like, all right, like if you're gonna leave, if you're gonna do something like this again, like it has to be after you've actually tried to accomplish something, like actually tried to, like, not accomplish in like I'm not interested in like a legacy. I'm not like I'm interested in like, can I actually have a positive effect in the world? Can positive effects actually happen in the world? Can like what like and what would that mean? And I saw, and like a big question was like, is there an ethical business, or can I run an ethical business? Because I want to do this movement thing, and I can't do it with any of the organizations that I knew at that time. So yeah, then I started to see the effect that I had on people, that like my teaching had, that the organization had, and it started to become like indisputable to me. Like I couldn't ignore that, unignorable. And now, yeah, I don't know. I still think about killing myself sometimes. And I still think about like quitting the company and shutting everything down. And but the moment, or the idea, like Embrace Challenge, like it was really like me taking the keys of the car like out of that part of my brain that wants to escape, and said like, okay, like you can still like chime in whenever you want to. If you don't like what's going on, like I want to hear it from you. You're like, because what you're saying is like something really needs to change, you know. And that's what this impulse is. Like it's important for me to know when something really needs to change. And like I'm gonna let this other part of me like drive. And this other part is like, I think we can figure it out. Like I believe we can figure it out, you know? So that's what Embrace Challenge is for me.
Well, now I don't want to challenge it.
Why not?
I don't know if I knew I mean, it's so interesting to me when you dig a little bit into anyone and their story, that you always encounter a level of surprise. I mean, some of this is not new to me. I've known but also pain, and people's stories are, I mean, it makes me wonder, is there a part of you that's grateful that that impulse is there because it gave way to the opposite?
The the impulse to say, like, something really needs to change.
The impulse
Yeah.
towards like suicide or ending or escape is what gave way to the
I
commitment to
mean,
not.
yeah. Well, my my highest self, I think, is like being able to have a pleasant dinner with the family of me, like all the different parts of me that are like good and bad and awful and pleasant and whatever, and that everybody can like all be informing who I am, and I don't need to like cast this part out and say, like, no, he's got tremendous wisdom and he's trying to tell me something that's really, really important. And I think that's true. Like all the, I noticed like all the different emotions like totally change the way that I think, and that like, I'm angry, and then I think about why I'm angry, and then I create something to be angry about, and I can do that in every direction. I think about uh, like depression being this own little like self-validating trap, and he's like sitting at the table like telling everybody else why they're wrong, and like you can just listen to him. He has the full scope, like, and you can totally subscribe to that, and then you can be kind of stuck in it. But then you can also say, like, I don't know, that guy sounds like wrong too, and maybe like sadness is not the deepest truth, and uh it's just another perspective, and that perspective could be expressed like a million different ways. And then if it could be expressed a million different ways, like, is that the way to choose?
It makes me think of it's funny you say table, because it's sort of like parts work, or I don't know, there are other modalities that really work into like bringing characters to each of these impulses or thought patterns, or but mine are also always at a table. It's like a conference table. In my scenario, there's one microphone and there's like someone who's like gripping it. There's like somebody quiet who never gets it,
Mm,
and it's, and the, when you were saying like, let's talk to him, that's sort of like reparenting that self of like, what do you like, what's going on, dude? Why, what do you need to tell me? Um, is like me bringing the microphone to other characters at the table, but it's definitely at a table. I've tried it with a school bus. You ever done that one where it's like somebody's driving the bus and all the characters are in the back doing whatever. It's,
mm,
and who's driving and how they're driving and where they are and the behavior and who's sitting with who in the back. And it could be another fun
mm,
one. I learned that from the woman who wrote Hospicing Modernity. I think I told you about that
mm.
book. She uses that one a lot.
I
Yeah.
yeah, I was led through an exercise where I had to like physically embody uh
Mm.
and characterize like all the different parts around the room. So there's like the child ashamed of himself in the corner, and the coach trying to talk to him, and whatever. Like there's all the different parts of me. On the table, there's always the part of me that is like stealing the VCR out of the basement. Um, I don't.
Yeah.
I've become a attached to that one, and I think it's because like when I was a teenager, like we had a couple of my sister's friends like came in and kind of well, they stole our VCR and a bunch of other stuff, and and I let them in. I was like, yeah, like come on. And then I think for a long time I was like, I absolutely like shouldn't let them in. And it's like, I don't have to like let them take the VCR, but I can let them show that they can like totally sit down at the table and like have a meal and like, be a part of this family, but just not that, like that thing that they're trying to do. That's why like they don't have the the keys. But I'm trying to get better at like letting these different parts of me like really like speak. So yeah, I just finished another round of circle training, and you have the mic, you have the talking piece,
Mm.
and listen to know, and speak to be known, and like this like act of surrender of your time, and total surrender of your attention to this person. Now they have the talking piece, and like you are going to like live into what you are hearing from them. And it's not like, oh, we're going to go do whatever you think about doing, but like talk about you're wanting to do that. Yeah. What's your challenge though?
I
What's the
love that.
challenge of Embrace
What's the
Challenge?
challenge?
Yeah.
Well, it's sort of happened in the last year or so because I was wearing my Embrace Challenge. I have a tank top, and I got self-conscious all of a sudden because I felt so privileged in stating you should embrace challenge, meaning someone who's in incredible struggle, and seeing that being like, yeah, fuck you. I'm fucking don't want to embrace this challenge. Like I am in pain and my circumstances are horrible. And you, from your like happy, well-off family, everything's okay place, are asking me to embrace this reality. That's fucked up. And then I was sort of like,
Yeah.
and
What
so it felt very, to be very frank, it felt social position felt like a factor. And
what
of course, the funny thing is I identify so like that's my whole upbringing, like so much that it's familial, it's ancestral. Like there's a whole deep current of Embrace Challenge. So I think I was trying it on from a different lens and realizing that it could feel like just incredibly not entitled, but just sort of like a privilege is embracing challenge. That's a privilege to embrace it. But I don't know. What do you think of that?
Well, I think like, what does this little white boy have to be suicidal about? Like, come on.
I
Was it
know.
really so tough? Then what's going on, dude? Like, come on, get over yourself. Uh and I think like when you say that, when you say some people might be up against a struggle, like I think everybody is up against a struggle. I'm not saying like all these struggles are equal. I think it's not fair to say that, but it's also not fair to say someone is not struggling.
Right.
And
Yeah.
Gurdjieff says like you learn a lot about someone by what they choose to struggle with. And I think there's also a tremendous amount of value that I've gotten in that, like I'm like choosing to be alive. Like, if
Mm.
you really think about it, like you like whatever the struggle is, and these are like really like harsh ways to think about it. Whatever the struggle is, like you could kill yourself and then you wouldn't have that struggle anymore, right? And
Right.
then it would be over. So just in being alive, if you have the capacity to kill yourself, then you're choosing to engage with the struggle. So like at the very root of it, like is your struggle, is your choice to struggle. So we're all going to struggle no matter what. And if we're going to struggle no matter what, we might as well choose what we will struggle with. And once we start to have decisions about what we struggle with, like then uh and then I think it also brings up like Viktor Frankl, and that guy had some struggle, and he says
Mm.
the last freedom is how you relate to your experience. Like you can struggle to like find, in his case, like find love for the people that are like killing people all around him, and he saw that as like a way to uh not only like keep himself alive, but preserve humanity, like preserve dignity. And I don't know that I could do that. It's beautiful to read about, and it can help to put my personal struggles like in perspective. But sometimes I feel like I'm like underneath life and it is crushing me and I don't know what I'm going to do, and it's really tough. And like embrace challenge is, for me, coming from like a little spark of like what if and what's possible, and I think you can do this. And like it comes right from like the core of my soul, or a core of my soul, like, so it accesses that. Maybe it is that I am not struggling with anything so deep that I can put on these sweaters and feel good about myself.
I mean, can we compare struggle? I feel like that's just, you can't. Like I mean, you can. And also on an individual level, you don't know any person's pain. Just don't. It also feels to me like your accountability to yourself, like in having that printed on things and having it as a tag for Movement Creative and having it as like a, the lighthouse you're headed towards, it is holding you accountable to that negotiation, to that
Yeah,
agreement.
it shows up and bites me in the ass like all the time. You know, I'll like I talked about snowboarding. I'll go out snowboarding with my buddies, and I'll want to like go in early, and then like they'll say like embrace challenge. Like, it's the joke that everybody has, the little
You're like,
poke to my ribs, and it like wakes me up in that moment, and it's like, well, I could still make the decision to stop right now. That might be the healthiest one. Maybe that is my challenge, or maybe this is. And uh very often it squeezes a little bit more juice out of life for me, and that's really nice.
and I love that it can be the lack of challenge is the challenge. It's something I feel potently that finding the end is not really, or finding the edges isn't my challenge. Finding the mid range is, finding a satedness before it's overdone is the challenge, which can look very from the outside like no challenge, right? And that's what I mean about like internal struggle, or where challenge actually shows up, is so mysterious and individual and
Yeah,
interesting.
that I mean, I feel like I this sounds like so sorry for myself, but I feel like I was hungry a lot growing up. And like the result is like I want to eat a lot and I want to eat like really quickly. And my challenge is to like uh eat a little bit less than I want, leave myself like a little bit wanting, and to eat slowly. And that's like, I think, my challenge across life, like
Mm.
to to let myself leave myself wanting, and live slowly.
But not too much wanting, but it's familiar, right?
uh yeah, I think um
Because
not
I
needing
know
to
there
feel
are
like,
states of
not needing
deprivation
to
that,
be bloated to feel like full,
right.
but I mean, right now food is always available in my life. Like I can always go have a little bit more food if I need the food. I think my understanding of my like need around food is like misprogrammed by by this past, and by all sorts of things, like, oh, you need to have 3 square meals, and this is what a meal looks like, and this is the sad American diet, and all of those things. And it's like, can I really get in tune with myself around food?
It's the same conversation we were having around movement to me. The food one is so rich and potent. It's not a field I spend a ton of time in, but I have. And the patterning around food, even the patterning around hunger or deprivation or is so, it shapes us so much, and culture, and learning authentic relationship to food, learning a like impulse. And I don't mean impulsivity unless that's what's being called for. But what does my body want? What does it feel like to taste this? How do I, all of that kind of
Yeah.
intuitive eating, I guess they call it. But being a parent, I can see right away where culture comes in. There's like, we can't have dinner at 10, even if you're, it's like, doesn't fit with the rest of the family unit. Or we can't do 6 snacks on the weekend because we have other things, there's schedules, and there's what's healthy and pacing. It's a struggle because I do believe so much in like, how do I support my own kids' relationship to food in that way? And also have a responsibility to be in relationship to the people I'm with around it. Because I
Yeah.
think, and this is the freedom versus form thing that I'm always toggling back and forth, but I don't think you or I are super interested in living a life free of constraints or external pressures or external structures or systems or pressures. I'm not. I don't know that that would necessarily lead me to a more authentic way to live, actually. I need the relationship between the form and my impulse around it to create a vibration or conversation that I get to know. It makes me think of when I talk about how frustrated I am and was with me and my body as elements that are separate, and freaking out about it with teachers and having them say, Lena, there's a function in pulling those apart. You now have the opportunity to relate. You have the opportunity for intimacy between and an understanding of these roles or characters or spirits or elements, right? And so similarly with freedom and form, without that, I don't know that I would understand where I needed that form in place, where I didn't. I need the conversation in order to create a relationship to it.
I think, yeah, I yeah, I live with a lot of routine and a lot of structure, a lot of form, and I practice a lot of form in my movement. And I think the exercise for me is to like see and validate and speak this other part to allow for more freedom, even if I end up in exactly the same place. Then it's a decision instead of like being trapped there. Like, even as you were saying that, I was thinking like, I was disappointed around like the training for chase tag, but I didn't explain the other side to the person I was talking with for hours about how they were training. I was just listening in a way that allowed me to get more and more disappointed. Um, not not like sharing like, oh, what about this? So I'll do that. Um, and then maybe they choose to continue doing exactly the same thing. Or maybe they say that sounds like really cool and I want to explore it.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I think the food thing you were saying, it's the same as the movement thing, and I think about how like I used to try to totally fill myself up on movement as well. Like
Mm.
I wanted to absolutely crush myself uh to feel good enough. Like I should be absolutely exhausted all the time. And now I'm trying to become like uh a little bit full. So some part of my body is feeling like it did a lot of work in the past couple of days, and then that feeling, moves around the body, and that's my new experience, and that feels good. I think I spent a long time like in after trying to kill myself with movement and trying to uh like just totally enjoy movement or just be like very easy about it. And now I want to play with the fire that I have still, see if I can like turn it on and turn it off, and uh, yeah.
How does that show up? How do you, because I have a similar intention these days. How do you register enoughness when you're playing with that edge?
Um, I pay attention to like what I think when I'm doing the edge work, and I can like at least for now I'm not outsmarting myself with my excuses. So on like Sunday night I was climbing and felt really good. I've been kind of stuck in a climbing grade, so but I flashed a bunch of things in the grade, which means I did them my first try. And then
Mm.
there was like a steep climb, much lower than my grade that Ruby suggested, and I went and I tried that, and then uh, I thought about like, okay, how am I gonna like work out so I can like get to the next climbing grade? Like I want to get to the next climbing grade. It's been like a couple of years now, and if I'm getting these on my first try, I must be close to the next level. Like this is, I feel good. Like I've really enjoyed climbing, and I say, okay, like this one that I just did, I'm gonna do this 11 times, right? Okay, like 11 is the sacred number in parkour because 10 is the reps that we always do. Everything is always, oh, do 10 push-ups or something like that. And to say like, okay, I have one more after I've done 10, and that one to be like of service. Like you're gonna do one more for your friends, for your family, for your community, for the world at the end. But I do the one, I do two, I get up to five, and I'm like, I'm done. Like this is fine. Like I'm good. Uh, and then I'm like kind of negotiating with myself. Like I don't know. Like maybe I could do another one, or like can I turn on? Like I've been meditating on fixation. Like I've been trying to turn off my fixation, but now can I turn fixation on? Like what is fixation like to become like utterly fascinated by this thing? Like what is utterly fascinating by this? Like this is well below my grade, so this is like an easy climb for me, so what could be fascinating about it? And then saying like, okay, like just try a couple more and we'll see how you feel. Like okay, so I try a couple more, and then I start to notice like, oh, I can like sequence this, I can get the movements a little bit gentler here. There's a way. Oh, my arms are starting to feel a little bit tired, so now my technique has to get smarter, but I think I can keep going a little bit faster. Now I'm noticing some chunks that I actually want to get rid of. uh and then it's like, oh no, but like don't you want to train tomorrow night? Like aren't you going to go like hang out at Brooklyn Zoo with your buddies and jump around? And I'm like, oh yeah, I better like just take it easy right now so I can do that tomorrow. And then it's like, oh wait, no, like don't save any for the swim back. Like you don't know anything about what the training session is tomorrow, and you can adapt to however your body feels then, but don't use that as an excuse to not explore something now. And then I was in it for the last like few reps and I finished it out. But it's like noticing the negotiation, like how legitimate are your reasons for stopping right now?
Mm.
Um, are they surprises? And if they were like very legitimate, then I feel like you could have put them as conditions before starting the exercise at all. Like, oh, I'm going to do this, but if my shoulder starts to hurt a little bit, I'm going to stop. You know,
It's so heady and rational, kind of. Because what establishes a legitimate reason? Like, who's deciding it's legitimate? Which,
but these are like the debates. Like when I say like the different meditations of parkour, like this
yeah.
huge meditation in parkour is standing on one wall, looking at another wall, and people will do this for hours. Some people, I think half of their
Right.
entire parkour practice is just this moment of standing on one wall, looking at another wall.
And the
Like,
conversation.
and the conversation that's going on, and there's a million things that you could think could happen, and there's like moving through, like, is there a way that I can do this safely? Like I have like a checklist that I follow, and I teach people that I try to use to figure out whether, like, is this something that's going to make me stronger? Like, can I figure out a way to do this safely? Am I doing this like because of social pressures? Like, am I clear headed? Like, if I'm not able to have this rational discussion and I'm feeling just like kind of frenetic and like, oh, I'm just gonna go for it, and it's like, oh, take a step back. And
So then you decide to jump, and what made that happen?
What made it happen? Well, I think that's what I'm
It,
maybe to take it all the way back, like the impulse and closing the loop and being aware, like, like I see this thing I really want to do, and that thing, well, like my attention is also controllable. I mean, I can make something that I really want to do, and I can like turn that fixation off, so I don't really want to do that. uh we've been calling it like a Ruby and I have been calling it like a brick dog after a Cesar Milan show, where this one dog like is totally obsessed with like picking up and running around with a brick. And, like, if it sees a brick, like it'll just go nuts. It's just like gotta have the brick. So we like we'll see somebody who's fixated, or we'll be fixated, and like we'll call that like being a brick dog. Like, totally nuts. But then, okay, so I want to do this. Like, am I clear mind, healthy body? Like, will it make me stronger in some way? Am I comfortable doing it with the people that are around me? Am I confident in the environment, how it's going to affect my abilities? Am I prepared if it doesn't go the way it's planned? And if I can make it through that checklist quickly, then I can do it like quickly.
and then it's like, I made it through the checklist. I'm going to do the jump. Here I go. Jump.
Well, then I've moved through all the like kind of rational, but I still might have like something that says don't do the jump, and then I will like sit with it, and like I try to get to the point. Like, I think another way to think about it, like I actually am not like I don't think I'm a verbal thinker, so this is a superimposed like logic verbal system on it. But like what is actually happening is like there is a kaleidoscope of different things that could happen, and it goes from like 1,000 possibilities, and I keep looking at the jump until it's only one possibility, and that is like that I succeed, like that I've been able to completely envision, embody, feel like the whole process of the jump, the landing, everything. Like, I've completely pictured it, I've felt it, and then I can do that. And I want that to happen. Like, well, recently, like I read a book that said samurai can make any decision in 7 breaths. So like, me and Adam, who like we've decided like we make decisions in 7 breaths or less. But I want it to happen like instantaneous. I'd love for it to be able to happen like while I'm running. But for now, I can usually get through this process in a couple seconds and take the jump. It might be because I'm not
Is
pushing
there
like the craziest jumps.
is there do you ever feel behind your body's choices?
Like the body has made a choice before I have, or like, can I get behind that?
Yeah, like your
Uh,
body's going for the jump and you don't remember deciding that was good. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so I went for a jump down in Mexico. I don't know whether like I had been off caffeine for like a month and I had some caffeine that morning, so I don't know whether that affected clarity somehow, but I found myself like I had taken off. I had a good run up. I had taken off and I was in the air and I was like, I'm not ready to commit to this. And but I also had like enough clarity that I was like, no, you're gonna be fine. Like just relax and put your feet up, and then I made the jump. And that was like really fascinating because the experience is usually like you find yourself in the middle of this jump and then you kind of like, well, for me, like I freeze up, I try to like block, brace for impact, and then it makes you like short the jump, and it makes the jump actually like instead of be absorbed, instead of land softly, like it makes the whole process like harder. So this is just like staying relaxed in that moment. That felt really good. um but yeah, that was like the past couple weeks, like a time that I had already made a physical decision, had completely committed to this thing, and was no longer like behind it or ready for it, but then was able to get like back onto track. In general, no, because the way I practice parkour, like I'm not doing this chase tag. I'm not being chased by somebody or something like that. Like I get to do things like when I decide to do them, and you always have another day, but you only have the one body, and like it's not that important. Like it's more important to me to like feel good the rest of my week, feel good for the next few months. Like I've seen the results of pushing it, and sometimes that result is like feeling really good about a success, and sometimes that result is like tweaking your shoulder and then spending like the next 6 months like feeling like you can't quite do the things that you want to do. And I feel like especially as I get older, like the number of 6 month breaks on enjoyment I want to take it's really like dwindled to none. um
What do you, I have other questions, but I want to give you time to talk about like what are you dreaming of? Like where do you feel movement going? And when you're excited and curious, like what do you see? Where does the movement going and what shape is it taking?
uh like movement like the company, or movement like movement either.
Life, body,
Yeah,
company, I don't know. However you
I
interpret it.
well, probably the answer to all of it is I want uh, a passion school upstate. And it's because like I do find a tremendous amount of value going into public spaces and kind of in some way like exerting yourself on it, expressing yourself on it, saying like this is who I am and this should be allowed. And there's like huge value and benefit that I've gotten from going to places where something is totally accepted and like uh, accommodated for in the affordances of
Mm.
the environment. Like if I could go upstate and like physically recreate the best parkour training spots from all over the world, like import big concrete sculpture building, like fountains and walls, and give it a place where I could, or where people could study for like months at a time. You know, to the point of what I was saying before, where like, can I leave myself a little bit hungry? I think I was like starving for that movement freedom that I got finally, like when I was 30, going to this school in Denmark, where like there is a weight room and a pool and a trampoline and beach volleyball courts and like 150 friends that all also always want to move, and 15 of them really want to do parkour, but everybody else wants to do all sorts of other stuff, like running and playing tag and climbing, uh, and it was like the first opportunity I had to like really like drink my fill, and I super strongly recommend anybody who's not quite sure what they're doing to go to one of these Hoiskula. You don't have to go to a movement one. Like you can go like to any kind of one. You can go to one for music or for marine biology. It's just a place to be surrounded by people that are passionate, exploring passions, something that you're interested in. And that's the place that I want to build upstate. That's where I want people to be able to go and practice. Like I think about my friends, and New York City is a very expensive city to live in. You have to work so hard just to like just to stay alive, just to exist, that you have to work even harder than that to be able to like express yourself and to move. And like there's just really something about being able to wake up and you know the you're going to have all you can eat healthy food all day, and you don't have to work anything for that. You're going to be surrounded by people that want to play, and you're going to have like these structures you can climb around on, and like beautiful nature you can be in, and you can go scream in a field if you want. And yeah, I think it's something that everybody deserves to feel. And I think your moment screaming out in the woods, this going up and going and not using it as much as you thought you would, or using it like way more, like I think it's a calibration. Like I think it's something that can continue to be a compass for you, and it's so much more and better of a compass. It's so much more specific about what your needs are than just knowing that you need more. Like if you talk to anybody in the city, so many people in the city, like they need to train more, they need to see their friends more, they need to work more, like everything has to be more, and there's not enough space in their life for their life. And we really need to have some places where people can go figure out like what their life should be composed of, who they really want to be. I was like involuntarily committed a couple times to mental institutions, and I would say like the ideas behind this and the idea behind the mental institution are probably like exactly the same, and the manifestation is so radically different. The cultural attitude and idea around it is so radically different that it's absurd. Like it is totally okay whether you're, in my case I was 12 and 18, but all sorts of people go to these places. If you don't quite know what you want to do in life and you haven't got it all figured out, and what would be the best place to figure it out? Like, well, can we just create a space that's like this like magical manifestation of like everything that you know you really love doing, even if those things are like parkour and you're never going to make money doing it, uh, or whatever it is, like, you know, that was crippling for me when I was 18. That like, this is the only thing I enjoy, but there's like no way I can do it. I have to do something totally different for my job. And then how am I going to fit in this world? You know, it would have been great to just go and say like, yeah, just you're going to figure yourself out by doing the thing that you really love as much as you can possibly do it. And you don't get to do that in the city, and I don't see that is really afforded in our culture. I think for a certain narrow, maybe slightly privileged group of people, they can figure that out in their first couple years of college, and that's a ludicrous and unhelpful environment for trying to figure that out. Like, it's not designed for it at all. It's not saying like, this is like, no, we're gonna like have you decide what your future is, and you have to pick your majors, and you have to do all this, and just the space to figure yourself out, just the space to explore what you're passionate about, without like the deep subscription into your like, what's your financial track, like how are you going to engage with the world. It's like, who are you, you know, what does it feel like to be passionate? And if you know what it feels like to be passionate, then you might know the pieces that are necessary to keep in your life so you can stay passionate.
The word that stands out when you're describing that, what seems like a fantasy land, but also tangibly possible, is play. And it's like a big topic, especially in the circles I'm in. It's play as an important form of healing or education or learning or all of that. I know you subscribe to, and I do too. And I think it seems like so much has to shift in order for play to become valued at that level. Because kind of what you're describing, unless you have the financial means to take 3 months off and pay for this, like how would this even survive? And then it becomes this conversation around exchange and money and value and what's possible. Are there grants that could support this place that you built? I mean, like, and I guess the place my mind turns when I quickly feel like I hit a bunch of roadblocks in terms of that being possible is, okay, well, where is it already happening? Where does this already exist and thriving? And how can we devote more energy and resources to those places so they can flourish and take up more space and become more accessible and more available? Because I do think that in the spaces of education, play is becoming more popular, I guess. There's maker spaces and discovery rooms and ways of, like, it's starting to happen. Where else does it happen? Outside with you guys and camps and classes, in dance studios, I know for sure. Yeah, I guess there's something that what I'm touching in on now, I'm realizing is, there's something sort of sad thinking that this city and culture is so broken that we have to leave it in order to make the thing we want.
Hmm.
Or this, people who leave the country because it's so fucked up and broken and polarized and I want to say, well, what about all the places where it's not like that? What about all the places where there is play, where there is freedom and joy and expression. And I think the city allows me to see that more maybe than other places. I don't know.
I don't know. I think about what a battery it was for me, and like I can see
Mm,
things and create things more here. But going there for a semester like really was something, and it
mm,
was like 150 people, and it was not another city. It was also like out a couple hours away from Copenhagen, like in a small town, and everything was like enclosed. It was the same small group of people for a long period of time, and you could do some like deep and interesting work. And it's cheaper than community colleges here. Like, I'm not
mm.
saying that it's cheap. I'm not saying that it's like accessible to everybody, but it is cheaper than community college here to go there for this experience. And I think a lot of people would have more value, like actually flying to Denmark and going and doing that before taking the community college, or in the middle of, I don't know what's going on in college. Yeah, I think the like I went to a play conference, and uh, it was really interesting to see all this, like, you know, scientifically supported, like academically relevant, like play. There were some people that like,
Who was
you
it
know,
for?
also pushed. It was mostly for educators.
Okay.
There were people that pushed back on that as well, which is like, let's stop saying that play needs to be like, let's get rid of play-based learning, and let's stop saying that like play needs to have a reason outside of itself. Like, it's something that's so absurd. We've all had experience of play. We all know how valuable, rich, and worthwhile they are. We all agree to it. And then as soon as you put us in charge of creating a system, it is like the first thing to be stripped out. Like, we know that everybody in every business would do better if they could learn to be more playful. Like, every school would be better if there could be more play. Like, every group would be healthier if there was more play in the group. Every relationship would be healthier if there was more play in the relationship. But it's the first thing to go. Like, and that's kind of funny. But I feel like the the thing that you're talking about, saying like, okay, this is possible here, like, yeah, like, it's possible. Uh but there is like a level to depth and immersion if you do this for like 4 6 months, like you go away and you like commit around this, like, versus like having the whole city with all of the noise that's going on with it. um there might be something there.
And I think, I mean, to be personal, I am definitely burdened with the pattern of nothing's too hard. Um, and sometimes it's too hard. Like, there are easier ways to do shit, and making it this hard doesn't actually create more value. So I think sometimes there's something I have to pay attention to, which is
uh
limiting myself or being inside hardship as a source of value and merit versus just, it's just like you could make it could be easier, you know? And
well,
so what's
I
wrong with
guess
it being easier?
to that point, because I really strongly agree, I would say like, once this completely makes sense, it will already exist. And
Right. I'm
like,
listening.
I'm not like pushing or like rushing or forcing this into existence. I'm not trying to force it into existence.
Right.
I
Right.
I I think this is a really interesting idea, and if I can hear all of the ways that this won't work and whatever doesn't make sense and everything, like, maybe by the time it exists, it will be exactly like what you're saying. It's just going to be like highlighting play opportunities in the city, and that'll be the whole fashion school. I don't know, but
there's something too that when we were talking about that conference, there's something that
yeah.
I guess it's the commodification of play bugs me a little bit, or like this constant need to create value in specific ways about stuff. Like, we need to play because it makes our kids smarter, or, and it's like you were just saying, what if it's in fact the only value it holds is the thing itself? I talk about this, we've talked about it in Duvet and in authentic movement practices. Like, we were experimenting with even this concept of like a value free zone. Like, there's no value in this. What if there's zero value in doing this? None. Then what? And it flips itself upside down. I was telling another person this, because then we're valuing a place of no value. So you can't really do it. But there is something that rubs me the wrong way about like, ooh, this thing is valuable. Let's make it into a form, create a system around it, make sure it has replicable ways of propagating across schools or businesses, or, you know, that it begins to leave its own essence, right? And become this other thing. Now it's valuable.
So I guess like one mind would be like, if the idea were really all the way there, then it would just be spread like instantaneously. Everybody would just know it, and then it would just happen. And if you didn't want credit for your ideas, then you would be able to put them out in the best possible ways so they could just get out there, and you wouldn't worry about your credit. But we do exist in a economic world. We do have to constantly demonstrate our value well enough that we get to like survive and live the life that we want to live. And we have to, like, that's as far as I can tell, an inevitability of our culture right now, or at least the culture game that I've chosen to be a part of. That's an inevitability. I have to continually demonstrate my value in order to continually be validated to exist. Whether or not I think that's appropriate, or I like it, or I want to change it, or whatever, honestly, that's not my fight. Like, that's not what I care about. That's not the biggest problem that I think of. And like, you're right, like, it would be great if they didn't have to have scientific studies for why it makes sense to have more recess. It is totally ludicrous that everybody is going to Finland right now and like studying. Oh wow, they're giving them like 15 minutes of recess every hour, and it's doing really well for the schools. And like, you know what the Finnish system is based off of? 1950s America. So they are copying something that we were already doing, and now we're using studies from that to show, hey, we should do this again. Like, this is a good thing. That's it's like dystopian or something. But if the way to get like your kid to have 15 minutes of recess every hour at school is to show them the study and have them buy this program from this company and do this with this budget and this, that, and this fundraising, like, if that's the way to get that 15 minutes of movement to happen, the movement is more important to me than how ludicrous and ridiculous the system is. I'm not saying the system shouldn't change, but how to change that system and the manipulation of these systems, and that's something that is deeply relevant to all of the work and every idea that anybody's ever trying to do and everything that we're trying to create. And it's important, but is that really like your angle of passion? Is that really your fight to have? Or is it just that like you're totally frustrated by it and you wish it could be different? Because like, you're certainly not alone there in that wish. But is your passion like systems manipulation? Like,
right?
Because if it's not, then, and I have some of that. I play with that, but I have to play with it for the greater purpose of this other thing, because this other thing is like what like speaks to my soul. Because this other thing is what hurts my soul if I ignore.
And that's the part where you just do the labor you need to do as a means to an end, which I totally get.
Yeah. I mean, our
I mean, there's also
capacity
something,
to
yeah.
I was going to say our capacity to grow as an organization has, I feel, mostly been by our willingness to like move through bureaucratic systems, fill out lots of paperwork, like get the appropriate like signatures in the appropriate places to move things. And I see that like not everybody is willing to do that. Nobody likes doing it, but that our willingness to do it means that like we have all of these things in place that allow us to go into other places and do the work that we really want to do.
Mm-hmm. And that's how the message gets communicated. Yeah, I feel that in my own business and work that I struggle so much with is all the back end. I just want to show up and do the thing I love, like everyone else. And there's all the labor that's involved in making those opportunities possible. And it sucks. It's not where I want to spend time and energy. And also, everyone has to do that at some level.
Yeah.
What's your impulse now? Do you need to move around?
My impulse now.
such a ridiculous. Sometimes I think it's hilarious because it's such a top down question.
My impulse, I guess. I started doodling.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think I'm starting to get anxious about the rest of my day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go have a meeting with a high school.
Hmm.
I hope it goes well. What's your impulse right now?
I think I'm reaching the end of my where I have good ability to focus and listen, and I feel my head's kind of
Yeah,
slowing down a little bit. I feel like I want to take Captain McGregor out. I see the sun outside, which is so pleasing after I feel like we've had so much gray weather. Yeah, I think I'm like feeling the itch to walk and outside and move and but I know I could like come right back down and go another 3 hours. Easy. And I don't feel like we even touched on a lot of, I mean, we have these conversations and have for years where we just spin up and can go and go and go. And I'm sure that's not unique to me, but it's something I so enjoy about having time with you and your, not just your thoughtfulness, but your, there's such a like sturdiness in the ideas you present and are connected to, which shows me the depth of thought and care and awareness that's there, that it's not something you've heard and are regurgitating or just adopted from somebody else, that it's something you've really like turned over a bunch of times in yourself. And I appreciate that. And you're also willing to change and have it shift. So sturdiness, not in terms of rigidity, but in terms of like tangible connection. Like I can feel that it's connected to you.
that's that all sounds really kind. I'm trying not to judge things even nicely. So I wonder what I mean when I say kind. Well, when you say that, I feel a little bit bashful. I feel a little bit self-important. I feel a little bit backing because I don't think I can return the favor as deeply. And I think beyond that, like those kind of uncomfortable, oh, this is embarrassing, or and I think all of it is kind of protecting me from feeling appreciated and valued. And it's really nice to let myself feel that. Although I just had another judgment that was nice. All the same, I think that level of reflection is really helpful for me. And the reflection on the reflection is helpful for me. And I think I get a lot more out of it if I do this instead of say, that was really kind.
Well, I appreciate it. I can see you kind of standing on the wall there. And I
Yeah.
will say this might be one of the few times where we've been spun up into conversation that we don't have like this like urgent, I have to get off, I have a session, or like I have to go, I'm picking up, like there's almost always a like hard external end to our
Yeah.
conversation. And like it's so interesting to feel like we were talking about where that space of like enough is, and a sort of sated, like, of course I want to return. Of course I want more time. But right now in this moment, I'm appreciating both of our ability to kind of feel that and be like, yeah, I think we're good for now.
Yeah.
And that's a gift. We
we're-
haven't had the space or time to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's super nice. Thank you for making that space. There
Thank
I go,
you.
judging it again.
It's okay. You're a human too. Because if you were a robot, this would be so much more boring.
Fair.
Yeah. I appreciate you deeply and your generosity with your time and your day. I know you have a bunch of different plates you're spinning. And that you made this space really means a lot to me. And I know there'll be more to come. So good luck with that high school, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. Good luck with this project, and good luck with the rest of your day.
Thanks, Jesse. Well, I'm glad you made it to the end of this podcast, and I hope you were able to find all of the hidden gems inside this cave that Jesse and I found our way into. Jesse is not just a deep thinker, he's also a deep feeler, and that feels really special. So I'm glad that I got to have an opportunity to chat with him and to share some of his perspective with all of you. I look forward to hearing your feedback and questions and comments. Please check out his stellar team and all of the awesome things they offer at themovementcreative.com.